recently we celebrated having 5,000 subscribers, and it was 2 weeks ago that we did a giveaway. And we just wanted to congratulate Sarah Sky 777 with that. And today we're giving a smaller giveaway, but I think it's really cool.
It is so cool.
And it's about our theme today too. Some social studies, history kind of concepts, right? And what I love about this is that you're making
paper dolls, like puppets.
Yes, there's a term for that. I'm not sure, but they are articulated, and so
they're very detailed.
Yes, very detailed, and you could act out the things you're learning, and so we're going to give that away too. If you comment below, then we'll choose you, and we'll give you a week to respond to that.
So give us some comments today,
Yeah.
and hopefully you'll win that.
Yeah,
We love hearing your feedback.
absolutely.
We enjoy about these episodes.
We do.
Whatever you want to say.
All right, so let's jump in.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of people calling, and did you guys know that we are available for free? We have free consulting via email, phone, or live chat. And there's no limit on that. We've been asked, do you only get so many questions, that kind of thing. But one of the things that we've been talking about has been social studies
It's
or
come
history.
up a lot in conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of questions.
And how do you pick your program when there's so many to choose from?
There's
feels
just a
overwhelming.
lot, and there are different factors. And one of the things that this particular statement has been used a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want Christian, I don't want secular, I just want the facts.
Just facts. Yeah. Is that possible?
I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
Is it possible to just have facts?
Well,
Can you be 100% neutral and have no opinion?
I don't know,
As a
because,
person.
because even with a timeline like this guy,
This is
which,
beautiful.
Master Books came and showed us this personally, and we literally all went. I'm going to open it upside down. Yeah, I'm opening it upside down. Nancie, will pull?
Yep.
I'll
But I
hide.
think it was actually going the right way. There we go.
Okay, it's one of those days.
It's one of those.
Look at this, guys.
wow.
And we all went, oh,
It's
wow.
amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
But even, and this has different lines to follow. So if
Yeah.
you want to learn about a certain thing,
For the presidents.
On top are all your presidents.
and there's a lot of information, but there's also these threads through history. And even with what they've chosen, you can't choose everything that happened
You can't
in
put
history,
everything
right?
on the timeline. You wouldn't have room for
Right.
even a small percentage of it, really. I mean, you have to pick and choose.
And by
right?
and we did you guys do your own student
we did,
timelines?
yeah.
And some are just printed out in papers and you can stick them on the wall.
Right.
Yeah, we
Or
had
a
one on the
book.
wall forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend that went all the way down the hall and back around. And,
Yeah.
But even when you do that, and you are allowing your children to write
Right.
down what's most important for them, right? So even in that process, those are facts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what you've filtered out
Yes.
is also dependent on you, right? Or
Yeah.
what you
And there are so many
include.
facts to learn.
I mean,
So
it's
you really can't learn all the
impossible,
facts
right?
in a few years. So you have to kind of decide what facts are important
Right.
for my
What's
kids to
going to be
learn.
emphasized? What do I want my kids to remember?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we forget is that every curriculum, no matter what you choose, it has a worldview.
Right.
It has to.
Right.
Because if it didn't, they couldn't write a curriculum.
And it probably would be really boring too.
It would be overwhelming.
You need some personality in there.
I mean, think about Alex de Tocqueville's, 2-volume work.
Yeah.
Just went up to like the early 1800s, if I remember correctly. But there's just this natural factor. You don't have that with math, for
Right.
example.
No.
There's a lot to learn, and you're
Yes.
always learning things. That's a good thing.
It is
Well, and
a
even
good
with
thing.
history, you have the things that you're saying it happened, but why does it matter?
Why does it
That's what
matter?
they ask.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so this fact is there. Why does it matter? So
Right.
worldview comes into play And you say, this is why this fact matters even to us today.
Yeah. So
Right.
it's not just the facts that are chosen and emphasized, but it's also what lessons are we drawing from that?
That's really good.
And why is it
Yeah.
important?
And people have different opinions.
And they
on
do.
that.
And so it really does shape your worldview. But, as I like that as kids get older, there are more and more curriculum options that will provide like primary source documents,
Yeah.
documents that are from real people that lived at the time.
Right.
And then the students can study those and they start to learn to how to evaluate those to say, what do I think about this?
The critical thinking
The
skills.
critical thinking skills. And so I think, a lot of these are weaving that in. We're going to look at younger years today.
Yeah.
But even in the older, younger and older years, we start to see that come into play. And the more they get older, the more important that is because we want them to start saying, okay, here's the facts, here's what I read, but what do I think about that? And why is that important? And how does that inform my decisions now?
Well, and
you know?
everything that came before us affects where we're at right now, and
So
where we're
much.
at right now will
Right.
affect future generations too. So it's
Yeah.
all interconnected, and I
It
think a lot
is.
of times we need to be reminded
Yes.
of that fact.
That it's
Actually,
gotta
And-
have some world.
And then in the early years, especially in a classical approach, you're building a framework, like a
Yes.
skeleton
Yes.
of concepts and data and those kinds of things. But I think any curriculum will do that. And it's kind of, well, how much of the viewpoint of the
Right.
author is
Yes.
in there. But I think it's a good lesson also to think about, well, to be able to identify the viewpoint.
When as
know?
teachers, we also bring into the play what we learned in school as children in history. And
Yeah.
sometimes we realize, wow, our history education was kind of lacking, or here's what I liked about my history teacher.
Yeah.
So we're also bringing our own experiences and then saying, okay, now it's time to teach
Yeah.
my kids, what do I want them to learn? What
And
do
it
I need to learn?
seems like, I don't know about you guys and your experience, but I feel like in general, most of the other moms and a lot of the dads that I talk to really did not like history in school.
It's the facts.
Did you guys
was-
like history when you were in school?
I had a handful of good teachers.
Yeah.
Not every
yeah.
teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something it's like taking medicine.
Yeah, it was like, well, I know I have to do this. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's going in one ear and out the other. I think it's hard for kids to hear all of these things about people that lived 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and they're going, why do I care? Why does that matter to me?
Yeah.
And so to help them, and that's why I love these timelines, to help them be able to have a visual picture kind of in sequence of how things happened is so helpful so that they go, oh,
And the layers of
Yes.
it. Like you were sharing the other day that it was a biblical history with,
Yes.
because my background was all, I learned all secular
Secular history,
history.
yeah.
And then I'm like, whoa, that was happening at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
Biblical history
Right.
was, mind blown. So
Yeah.
blown. I made a new
Yeah.
past tense there.
yeah. So that brings us to really that is an initial good thing for us when people call in and they say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm trying to choose history.
Yeah.
We often will ask them first thing, well, what worldview, what's your faith, what's your philosophy in life? Because if we know that, then we can help them filter through all of the options and really like, okay, you're gonna wanna land over here or over here or over here.
In the general ballparks.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think your family has a perspective, and I think every family is going to probably want to put their own
Yeah.
voice in there too.
Right.
Their own
Yeah.
opinion and say, this author is saying that. What do you think? Are you intrigued about that? Let's
Yeah.
do some more research.
Right.
Those kinds of things.
Well, I think that brings up a good point because sometimes we have families who say, well, I'd like to use Christian material, but my charter school says I can't. And I always tell them, that's okay, put your own voice in there. So maybe you're doing something like Sabbath, which is secular. But then that's a good time to talk about it. If you disagree or you are like, you know what, we want our kids to think about that, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why we might disagree or maybe we're not sure what we think about that. But I think history is a great area.
That's the advantage, though, of homeschooling. We can't sit there and say, I have no idea what my kids
Right.
are learning.
We have
I
so
have no
many-
idea. Okay,
Yeah.
we can look
Yeah.
at the book and
Yeah.
say, okay, here's what the book is teaching, and I can
Yeah.
interact with that. It's not 100% just
There's so
out
many
there.
opportunities.
So there's I didn't intentionally do this, but there's some rolling up your sleeves
Yes.
as a teacher,
Yes.
right? With social studies, I think,
Definitely.
in particular, especially if you hold some things very dear.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about the Sabbath?
Oh, I can talk about Sabbath for a minute.
Secular?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a beautiful history. This is a social studies program.
Social studies.
And it is secular. So this is one that when we get families that say, well, I'm in a charter school, I need to use secular.
Do you want me to hold it?
Sure.
You can look
It's
at
a
things.
really wonderful one. I love about this one is that it is very multisensory.
Okay,
And, you know,
nice.
so we'd all talk about those dry and boring history textbooks that we had when we were in school, and you kind of sat there and listened, but there wasn't a lot of engagement with history, you know? And I think that a lot of us want that for our kids. We're like, I don't want my kids to just read the dry textbook and be like, all right, I did history. We want them to engage with history. We want it to change them. We want them to interact with it in a way that says like, hey, this was fun. It made me think about it, and now I'm really interested in this thing. You know,
It's kind of like the stage of truth is stranger than it's more entertaining than fiction, right?
Yeah,
Like this happened
yeah.
for real,
for
right?
real.
Like, really?
It's real. That is a good
Like,
point.
that's pretty wild.
Because, like we were saying, I think
Like,
that
what?
for them, it's almost like these are fairy tale people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
if
that
they don't have
especially,
things
yeah.
to bring it to life.
And we brought all grade 4, which
We
is
did.
where they're transitioning to that. They're
Yes.
starting
To read more on
think
their
about
own and-
reality a little bit more, and starting to show some opinions about things and how
Right.
they gather.
Yeah.
So you have
So
some
with
other
this
details
one,
with
yeah,
this?
it's a soft cover and it's a work text, which I love because it's a
Yeah.
textbook and a workbook in one.
Yes.
So it is
So
consumable.
you're
Kids
just
will write in it.
looking for one book and not
Yep.
the 3 that
One
you need
book.
for today.
Yes. The only other thing you have with this is you get a 1-year digital subscription, and that's for the teacher and the student. And with that digital subscription is a lot of extra supplemental resources. There are songs and games and all kinds of activities. So if you want to assign your kids some videos to watch and some games to play, so you do your lesson in here, they
Yeah.
can go and work pretty independently on the digital stuff, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Ruth, you opened to that first page. I wanted
Yeah.
to show this.
This
So
is,
the chapters always start
a wrap.
here with a wrap, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Now you can get online and listen to the rap too.
We should have brought your son today.
Yeah, he's a
Wrap
good
that.
rapper.
I'm not going to rap on camera.
So every chapter has a rap, and you can listen to it,
Very
or
cool.
the kids can go
Learn
through.
it. Okay.
It's
So the
memorized,
words
right?
say the people decide who ought to lead. It's what we call a democracy. We
Here we
believe
go.
we have basic rights, nothing less than life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
There we go.
I'm not a rapper.
We didn't
but-
practice that either.
we didn't. So this is the kind
but
of thing.
fun, right?
It's
and
so
it will
fun.
be ingrained in there.
The kids
Yeah.
will love it.
Yeah.
So every chapter has that.
Oh, cool.
And every chapter has a primary source document.
Nice.
And
I
you know
love
what?
that.
Like we were
I really
saying,
like that.
reading something, we can read something that someone wrote about the past, but how much better to read from someone who lived in the past directly. So now here we're reading a letter from John Adams to Abigail Adams, and it's like, oh, this was actually like a founding father, and he was writing a letter. Oh, he had a wife, and
This
what
is
did
how
he
they
say?
talked, right?
And this is how they talked. And
Yeah.
it's so much more interesting to read that than to read someone that said, John Adams wrote letters to his wife. Okay. But we're going to read an actual letter. So this curriculum does a very nice job of integrating auditory, visual, and
Nice.
kinesthetic components. There's always a project in every chapter too. So like I
Cool.
think it's the second tab maybe I have there. But there are some projects like if we are talking about community stuff, I think okay. Oh no, I'm
That's
sorry.
a letter
okay.
from.
But there's a
that's a
project
letter.
in there where you're writing a letter
get walked
to someone
away.
in your community about something important that maybe needs to change. So you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, here's something I've noticed in our community. We need better trash cans at the park or whatever it
We need a
might be.
stop sign.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. And you're learning to be active in history.
And that's that social studies element.
Yes,
Yes.
It's
that
not
is
just the history of the
right.
past, but how we interact in our communities. and our-
Exactly.
What would you guys say is the difference between social studies and history? We talk about that
Good
a lot.
question.
Yeah.
I think we use them somewhat interchangeably,
We do.
but they are different.
Well, social studies often does bring that geography in, so that other part of where the places that aren't necessarily tied to time. And I think we add in the culture,
Yeah.
which again is part of history, but it's more specific cultural,
Right.
community focus.
Right. You usually start when in the younger years with right around them, their community, learning about community helpers
Yes.
and things like that. And
Remember
then you
those.
move out to state
Yes.
and that
Right.
those kinds of
Socialization.
and history is going to be more focused on the events that occurred
Stories too.
and the stories as well.
Stories.
Is
Yeah.
that how you would look
I
at
think
it,
so,
Nancie?
yeah. I think when I was doing a little research that social studies, that term started to be used in like the early 19th century. And it was, so at the time there was kind of this thinking that only college-bound students really needed history. So all we really need to work with students with is to teach them how to be good citizens.
Okay.
And so that's how it kind of started, but I think over the years, of course, it's changed. And some history programs, fall in line with almost being more like, some social studies is more like history. But I think social studies oftentimes like kind of divides out some facets, more theme oriented, and like we're looking at citizenship, and we're looking at this geography portion and maybe this cultural thing. Whereas the history kind of puts it all together, and we're studying it and all together in detail, chronologically often.
Usually,
Right?
yeah.
So
And there are some states that have specific requirements, but most of the states are more relaxed on those concepts.
that's a good
right?
point. Always check your state's requirements,
Yeah.
because sometimes there are some. Somebody chatted in the other day, and I said, "Now, does your state have any requirements?" She goes, "Let me go check." And then she came back and she goes, "Is it okay if I copy and paste this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's okay."
Okay.
So we kind of read through it. And there's times where if you have very specific state requirements, this curriculum might mostly fit, but you might have to add a little workbook
Yeah,
about
the story of the world.
is
because
something
it's-
else that has to be
It's
covered.
a chronological history program.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've got another social studies
Yeah.
over here, and this is from Discover.
Oh yeah.
And I had not looked at this level in depth before, so I was having fun with it. And there's a book for this first semester, for the second semester, and then there's a teacher book. Yeah. And this has some interesting things in it. It starts at the beginning of the colonization of the United States, and then it moves on through, and we get past the Civil War. And when they talk about the Civil War and slavery, they also will sometimes bring in current events. So there's a discussion of Juneteenth and what that means and what they're celebrating at that point. And this is what the students will engage with. And then you as teacher have additional helps with that. But it's very accessible.
It's also
and
a work text.
It's
Also the working,
it's
the
a work
writing,
text,
the writing
exactly.
and the text.
It's colorful. It looks very engaging.
Yeah, I was digging it. I kind of forgot that I was at work and started just enjoying the
Did you want me to
book.
go back to the tab?
Yeah,
Okay.
go back to the tab, because here's an example of what we were talking about with the perspective, and they give the kids an opportunity to do that. So you may have seen this black vase before, this shape
It's a
before.
shape.
Okay, it's a shape. I'm not supposed to intuit and tell you what it is. You're supposed to figure out what it is. And then there's a shape there. What do you see? Do you see the faces on the side, or do you see the center one? And then if you look at the next picture, one way you might see a rabbit, and the other way you'll see a duck. And so they really are encouraging the students to recognize that they have a perspective, and if someone's sharing ideas, the idea, you may not agree with that idea. That doesn't mean the person's wrong. And so they really talk through that, and I like that they're
high-level
doing
thinking.
that
Yeah.
with kids in fourth grade. So there's this really great springboard to talk about deeper topics.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we were talking about.
Nice
Anything you look at is going to
So this is considered
come
neutral.
through your.
Yes.
We call it neutral, and so don't let that throw you. I mean, if you need secular, neutral will count, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I dig it, and
Yeah,
it's pretty
nice.
reasonable.
So maybe we should say real quickly, what do you guys think the difference between the neutral and the secular? So a charter school could use either one, but I think we would say neutral usually doesn't have any religious instruction at all, but it also omits controversial content, because
Yeah.
sometimes the secular ones are going to touch on things that might clash with some religious beliefs. You
Right.
know, some of the political or cultural or societal perspectives might be framed through like evolutionary content, or there might be something in there that we would say, oh, we don't really agree with that. Not that you can't use it,
Right.
but just so that you know.
Yeah, and we're one of the few companies that do that. So we're writing, it's a little bit of an issue determining that.
It is, yeah.
But I think that broadens. If you are like the individuals who called us and said, we just want facts,
Yeah.
then maybe neutral leaning is more what you really are desiring, right?
So
You've
I
got
just
one.
recently looked into this is generations
Yeah,
curriculum.
and this is
So this definitely
newer
is
to
under the
us,
faith-based.
so we're still learning a lot about it.
Yeah, I'd like to see the inside of
So
this one.
this is definitely a leveled curriculum, and they do take the world, not the world, but geographical approach where
Okay.
you're taking an area of the world. So this one is specific to America, but the other volumes cover Asia, Middle East, one more Africa.
So kind of theme-based, more topical.
Yes, and so they go
Okay.
chronologically through the history of that area. But it is all featuring prominent Christian figures,
Okay.
people that helped to advance Christianity.
So it's kind
who
of
were like
missions-based.
heroes of the faith. I felt like it kind of was a heroes of the
That's
faith.
neat.
But along the way, they're definitely like weaving in other historical factors that are going on behind the scenes.
Okay.
But it's
So
kind of the
faith
setting.
is the mainstream.
Yes, here's
right?
God's
The
story through
wars and
history.
wars or
Here's the
whatever.
people God used to advance His kingdom.
Okay.
With the setting of geography, we have like a lot of geography in here, and then a lot of regular history. Like here's your Vikings are in here too, but it's the context.
A lot of
is
colorful
the
pictures,
Christian
which I
content.
think kids love. We live in a world where the visuals are important, I think.
So this will have North America, Central America, South America, right? And also influential people.
Yes, a lot of people. It's a very
including
people focused.
Okay,
very,
that's interesting.
Very. If you look at the kind of the chapter headings, you can see the different people. William Bradford here, John Eliot. So they're looking for significant people and not just events.
And we always include on our graphics, we always include table of contents,
contents.
so you can kind of get a feel. But believe it or not, we can bring in, the warehouse is like 2 blocks away. So we bring in material, and if you have a particular focus that you want to see how it's handled, we can help
Dive into
walk
it,
you
dive
through
into
that
it.
and dive into
So
it and
then
see
this
what we
program,
find.
it comes with a matching work text. And this is the student workbook. So the text can be reused. This is
Okay,
going to be.
that's the
And again, in the work
consumable.
text, you can see how it's leveled, that there's a little bit different content levels for the
Yeah.
workbook. So this is like a 3rd, 4th grade level. When we're reading, matching, writing, where the earlier levels have less work to do.
Okay.
And they have a really simple schedule to follow at the
So
beginning.
would you need one for each student?
Yes, one of these each. But again, we're talking later about multi-level. This is a little bit more level to 3rd, 4th grade. It might be a little too hard for a 1st grader, might be too easy for a 5th grader.
So it's kind of missions focused.
Very
Yeah.
much missions focused and like
content-
God's great story kind
Okay.
of idea.
Yeah. It's neat.
So
And these two, Discover and this one, are going to be that grade level, and so is the
Sabbath was grade
right?
level too. Yeah.
I feel like we've got a couple. we
Well,
still haven't
another
done
question
yet.
that we get a lot is, can I teach all my kids together, or do I need separate programs for every child?
Which is a lot.
Which, we all had those separate programs when we were growing up. Most of us did in school. And so that's how our minds think, is like, oh, I've got to have the 2nd grade history and the 4th grade history. And sometimes that, that's okay if that's the approach you're looking for. But with larger families especially, that can be tricky if mom's got like 5 kids all with their separate programs and you're trying to
and they're all
keep up.
studying different facts and
Different
different wars in
things.
Yeah.
different countries. You
Hard to
can't
keep
answer
up.
all the
yeah,
questions.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I really liked bringing my 1st through 6th graders in together on that.
Yeah.
It helped a lot.
So a lot of
It's-
the homeschool programs especially do a great job with that.
Yes.
They do. And I think it's a nice subject to be able to kind of bring your family together, whether it's through like the history spine, like Story of the World, Notgrass, you're going to have all of your kids kind of studying that textbook. We can look at that in a second. But it's a great area to do that because it's not like math where it's like you have to understand this before moving on to this, before moving on to this. We can have our 1st through 4th graders all working in our Star-Spangled story. And this one by Notgrass is a just so beautiful. When I look at this, sometimes
Do you
I'm
want
just
us to hold stuff?
yeah, that'd be great. I'm just amazed. We'll give you that, Ruth. So Notgrass has 2 history textbooks. So kind of like each semester,
one,
you'll
part
have
two.
one, part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
And as you look through them, you'll see they are just filled with colorful pictures and photographs, and like every page is just absolutely gorgeous. And when you get to the end of each chapter,
Map in the back.
there's a map.
There we go.
There's a column, a blue column at the end of that chapter, whatever Ruth has got open there, and you'll see there's always lesson activities.
Yep, here's your just another little activity.
Yeah. And so things like, here we go. You're going to go to the Rhythms and Rhymes book, and that's something that is just so cool. So talking about primary source
Singing.
documents
Singing again?
More singing.
and singing, the kids have all of these songs, poems, and stories from the time period. And so as they're, learning about whatever it might be, whatever time period. Okay, Skip to My Lou is in there, you know. Now they can see an example, if they go online, they can see an example of kids dancing to this, and they've got all kinds of cool things online that go with this book. Here's another one. This is the jitterbug, and so when they're talking about World War II, they're going to talk about the jitterbug, and they're going to go online. They're going to see examples. They can try dancing in this style. They can try singing it, and so these are all just primary source documents from things, people that wrote poems and stories and songs at the time. Super cool. And I love the auditory feature. So, that's one of the things that we do also try to point out for people. Do you have kids that are a little more auditory? Do they really love the songs? And are they kinesthetic? Do they love the dances? Do they love movement and tactile things?
Right.
So this is a good one, I feel like, too, for multisensory kids. If you want to be in the kitchen cooking something, you might have a recipe that's in the activity, or you might go dance, with this, or you might go and just do a craft project or something.
Right. And there are quite a few programs that will incorporate
that, yeah.
this
Yeah.
activities
I know in
as well.
Story of the World, now this is going to be a multi-level as well, but with neutral content.
Yes.
But what I appreciate about Story of the World too is in their activity guide, is additional reading.
There's a lot.
So many good options.
You
Lot
can't
of
do it all.
choices,
You can't do
right?
it all. But for like adapting
no
it,
stress, right?
the first grader
Pick
can
and
do the
choose.
picture, the second grader can handle this, the fifth grader does more, so they give you a lot of options to adapt it.
So
to
you're
the
reading the
different
text
levels.
together first, and then going to the activity book and picking
find.
what fits your
And then
family.
you're in the activity guide. Now, in the older levels, the activity guide does have more trickier questions, but they also have the coloring pages and the
Right.
maps, which are fun to do.
So this one you could potentially use for a little bit maybe broader range. So this one's
Yeah.
for grades
Little
1
bit
through 4.
Goes up through grade 8, per the publisher, I think.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's a little more adaptable, but that activity book really helps you to adapt it to the age kids you have and what they're interested
so
in.
nice.
The recipes, you mentioned the songs,
Yeah.
look at this literature.
You can really tailor it to fit. It's like a buffet, and you just pick the things that you want, right, off of the buffet.
Now I'm getting hungry.
I
Thank you,
know,
Nancie.
I know. So one thing I should have said too about our Star-Spangled story is there is also a literature option that goes with it. So that will give you,
Absolutely.
the Story of the World
That's
gives you the
awesome
list of additional
to
reading,
choose
which is
from.
awesome. This one does too. It gives you a whole list of literature. And so you can tie in your stories. So you're reading your history and then you go and do your read aloud. It's like, oh, this is a story about so-and-so that happened in that time period.
My kids loved that. Yeah, and I also liked having the age range. I remember the oldest child was elaborating on something he
Yeah.
felt like was gospel truth based on what he'd read, and then the youngest one said, "Oh no, what I read in my resource contradicts what." You said so. We had a great
Sibling
discussion.
That's
rivalry,
awesome.
Well, yeah, that too.
right.
The oldest and the youngest. But that conversation
Yeah.
is great. And so we dig
Yes.
in and what do we know that happened? Do what, and is that a sword to die on, for example? Is that
Yeah.
really, how crucial is that point? And let's dig into that a little bit. But that was a great conversation that happened because we were all in that time period together, but doing maybe age-appropriate things
Yes.
for the most part. So
And with a
that's
lot
cool
of
thing.
these, like Notgrass, so you might be with your 1st and 4th grader in this one, but you can also choose for your 5th and 8th graders to be on similar time periods. So even though they're grouped together, 5th through 8th grade, you can choose, that same time period usually, and that way you're still kind of on the same.
Well, and kids
wavelength.
can always hear more. They
catching
they
on.
can understand
Yeah.
if you're doing this auditorily, then you can they can get a lot of information.
Do you guys feel like I'm curious, like history is an area where your family has a lot of memories, like from homeschooling your kids. Because I know that for me, I feel like some of our very sweetest memories were doing activities or reading together and discussing it in history, because you feel like it is those world-shaping conversations of like, even if there's some disagreement and an older kid is saying, well, I don't know if I like that, they did that, and you start to talk about it. Those are memorable. Those conversations stay in their memories.
That's a good point.
And those activities that you do, because they're bringing these really exciting stories. I mean, I think one of our favorite memories was mummifying apples when we were studying ancient Egypt. And it was like, we made the salt bath and we kept checking, how many days did it take for those apples to look like they were completely dried out, and then you're reading about the process of mummification. But doing little things like that, I feel like there's a lot of potential for memories.
Well, when it's story-based, I feel like when my kids were younger, the stories would show up in their play, especially if they're in the Middle Ages.
Oh, right.
And the next thing you know, they're over there dressing
and
up
they
like
have
the
their
king
swords
and
out,
queen.
and you're hearing Charlemagne what, and you're hearing all the different words come out, and they start replaying it when they're younger. So that's in terms of memories. That's how I remember them, kind of reenacting things.
Because
maybe
now
not
their
accurately, but
imagination's all over whatever you just
who are
talked
the good
about.
guys and who are the bad guys?
There's a lot of that going on.
question,
Right, exactly. And then we also have Alpha Omega Press, and we've got the 4th grade history and geography. And that's the whole course right there in your hands.
All in
right?
a little box, which is really nice.
They come in.
And that has
little
the teacher
workbooks.
material, which is a lot of, here's the teacher guide right here,
So
actually.
one teacher guide, 10 work texts,
They're pretty thin.
which they work through
Very
one
portable.
at a time.
So this is an
Very
answer
portable.
key. Yeah, it's very portable. I actually talk to families who will take this on the road, like they're doing, they're living in a camper, for example, and they'll take
Because
this.
it's
It
not
works
hard to
really
grab
well.
a workbook and get in the car and
Yeah.
go.
This is like the work text, like the
This is-
Savas, the Discover, except it's me smaller.
Very
smaller
colorful.
workbooks.
I feel like they do a very nice job of, these might be small work texts, but they're packed with good information.
This will
Yeah.
be grade levels as well.
So 4th grade,
And
and
the reading levels at that grade.
these are Christian.
And they do something that's more traditional approaches to combine history with geography.
Yes.
As you're
You're going to get
studying.
both really
Right.
well.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
In some cases, there will be, like this one's going to study Cuba, Iceland. This is Unit 8, so Japan.
That's collection. That's
Isn't that
fun.
cool? Yeah. So those are the 3 inland countries that they're studying, island countries that they're studying. And so each unit has a different focus.
And in 4th grade, if they're reading it pretty independently, this could be a pretty independent, because the instruction is really written to the student. So
Right.
it's telling them,
Right.
they're reading the lesson and then answering
So
the
look at our
questions.
vocabulary word is independent.
Oh, right.
there you go. Good
Thinking
job.
you're acting for
Tara.
oneself and not influenced
Looks like we did
by
that on
others.
purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's actually a great option to kind of guide that student to the next stage of being more
Yes.
independent. And
Right.
if, especially, I talk to families who have a lot of younger children, and that 4th grader's like, I'm big stuff now. I can do
Yes.
my own thing. This is a perfect
a
way,
good
and you
one,
check in, and they're just sitting next to you at the
Yeah.
table or whatever, and then they can really get into that.
And talking about the seasons of life, this might be one for a season of life if you are taking care of an aging parent, or you're
Yeah.
on the go a lot
Yeah.
and you're like, we got to go to grandma's appointment, take your book, let's work on it.
I
in
don't
the
want this
car.
many books to bring
Yes.
along the
Yes,
backpack.
exactly. You can
Therapy
work
or
on this in the
something,
waiting
yeah.
room or wherever we might be.
It works really nicely that way. And I had to do that when my parents moved in with us. Our lifestyle and our learning lifestyle
Changed a lot.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
And so that kind of product doesn't have the multi-sensory appeal that some of these others do, but the content's there,
Yeah.
they're learning.
skills.
Right.
Yeah, you've got what you need, and it works really good in that
Works so
situation. Or
well.
maybe you
That's
just
right.
want to do that all the time, and that works nicely.
And it
too.
would be easier with this one if you did do the grade level approach and you had a second grader, a fourth grader, and a sixth grader. With something like this, you're not going to feel as overwhelmed because it is more on the student to work a little more independently. So you might be able to pull that off better with something like this.
Yeah, you just need to make sure they're reading at that grade level, and that's it.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good one.
Yeah, I like that option. So don't be afraid of social studies, of history. I think it is something that's very valuable, right? And it often, when we talk to brand new homeschoolers, we often say, okay, figure out your math, then let's go to language arts. And the social studies can be later. Don't forget it, of course. But it can be a really great spine for a lot of very great conversations and learning and learning for you as parent too, right? Because you can revisit that. And as an adult looking back, how do I feel?
We're kind of reclaiming our education, I feel like, in a lot of ways as we homeschool.
I like that.
It's like,
Having to
I
research
might
and
not
think
remember much
through.
from history and geography in school, but when I teach my kids, I'm getting it that second time around, and I'm
We're
like,
seeing the value
love
of
it
it at
this
this
time.
age,
Yes,
right?
we see the value.
Well, so many of these programs, I mean, whatever one you pick, really do make it come alive, probably better than we remember.
They do.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the storytelling is better, you know, the pictures and the extra activities.
And what's so exciting is this time we don't have to just take, what's handed to us and say this is history. We get to decide how our kids are learning, and so it's really fun because we can look through these and go, oh, this is so amazing. I wish I had this when I was in school, but now my kids can have it. I can do a timeline, we can personalize a timeline. Maybe we watch a movie and we add, okay, that movie happened in the early 1900s. Let's put it on the timeline. Or we read a literature book that happened here. And we can do that for our kids and make sure that they have a context for history.
Well, that enthusiasm, though, is important, right?
It
so
is.
if mom thinks history
That
is
is true.
torture and boring,
I mean,
kids can catch
across
that
the
on.
board, it's like, I know I struggled with that
So,
sometimes with
yeah.
certain subjects. It was like, can y'all tell I'm not excited about doing this today?
if you can find a program that you're excited about teaching,
Yeah.
to say,
That's-
I can't wait to dig into this,
That's good.
then your
Yes.
kids do catch that enthusiasm.
It is contagious. And if you're excited about it, they want to learn about it. But if you don't
Absolutely.
act like you really care, they're going to be like, why do we care?
If you think it doesn't matter.
Well, and we're checking the box a lot of times,
Yeah.
and so we just want to encourage ourselves. Also, I want to continue learning. I think that's a very valuable skill.
Yeah.
And no matter what your age is, and also to engage with it, and it has a lot more effect on us. History does. Than we realize, and
Yes.
so it's
And there are
important to
so
know it.
many wonderful time-tested methods and approaches. And we love to talk about, the Charlotte Mason approach or the classical approach or unit study, whatever it might be traditional. And so we love it when you call us because then we get to help you think through, what approach is best for you. Because we do know that when you find the right curriculum and the right approach, it does bring history to life for
And
your
what's
kids.
important to you right now? Sometimes people are in a situation, they have
Right,
something going on, maybe a
exactly.
trip
Yes.
or travel or something
Yes.
happening. You go, I really want our kids to be like
Taking care of an
Exactly.
elderly
understand
parent
American
or-
history. I want to
Yes.
understand this country. So you can tailor it to what is going on in your
Right.
family.
Exactly.
Whatever
Given the
season of
education.
homeschooling you're in, you can
So
make
if you want
it
to focus
fit.
on America,
Absolutely.
that's great. If you want to focus on a different area of the world,
There's a lot of flexibility, and that can also cause like deer in the headlights
It can.
as well. But
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. And somebody asked me, "Are you guys really free?" Yes. Do you have a time limit? No.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 o'clock Central Time. Yes, 8:30 to 5. But do you have? Can you only ask 5 questions? How many times can you email us? We don't count all that, but we want you guys to thrive in your
We
homeschooling.
want you to find a curriculum that brings it to life for your family.
Absolutely.
And we have obviously way more than just here.
Yeah, we
This
just
was kind
brought
of a
some
sample and-
examples of grade 4, but don't forget about our giveaway.
Yes. And this is a great thing to do for kinesthetic hands-on learners, right?
Yeah,
Because
and then you can reenact what you
Yes.
learned, and cool. All right.
very cool.
Well, have a great day, guys.
So leave us a comment for the giveaway, right?
Yes, that's
All
right.
right.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Adios.